Online and across Canada, solidarity at a time when so many feel alone.
Today, all Canadians are Nova Scotian.
A country remembering those who died and how they lived.
It's your friend, you know? It's hard.
While coming to terms with awful acts of violence and the unthinkable toll.
I brought the flowers here for my niece Jamie Blair and her husband Greg and their little boys that they survived it.
Tonight, the loss, the questions, and the powerful acts of grace. This is a special edition of The National.
Good evening. I'm Adrienne Arsenault.
And I'm Andrew Chang. In Nova Scotia tonight, the cruelty is layered. There's the incredible scope of the loss.
18 people now confirmed murdered, and police warn that number will likely grow. Add to that the brutality of what happened and when, in the middle of a pandemic, meaning right now, many are mourning alone. Tonight, we'll take you through the investigation, what we're learning about the lives that were lost, and how communities are coping and finding small ways to pay their respects. So let's begin with the search for evidence and answers. The CBC's Tom Murphy begins our coverage.
They are the fingerprints of a mass killer. This charred and leveled home, the burned out cars. Evidence of a crime spree that is now being meticulously combed through.
They're going to have to get all the little bits from everybody.
These people found their neighbor face down in his yard Sunday morning in Wentworth. They called 911.
I had to go over and look at him and tell them and verify that, you know, there was no signs of life. It was very hard.
Especially when it's somebody you know.
It's your friend, you know? It's hard.
One piece of the twisted puzzle that's spread over more than 90 kilometers. No fewer than 16 crime scenes, according to the RCMP.
We've been unable to fully examine the crime scenes because, for instance, we have had 5 structure fires, most of those being residences, and we believe there may be victims still within the remains of those homes.
So that's 18 victims and counting. Their connection or their randomness to the killer still not completely clear.
The subject did know some of his victims, and yet others he did not know.
And the questions, they keep coming. Among them, the police uniform, or the facsimile thereof, the killer was wearing. Where did the shooter get it? Investigators don't know.
His ability to move around the province undetected was surely greatly benefited by the fact that he had a police or a vehicle that looked identical in every way to a marked police car. And beyond that, he was wearing a police uniform.
What is so painfully clear and out in the open now, the grief. From RCMP detachments to flagpoles across the province, with more to come. Amid all the pain, this, a wounded police officer, Constable Chad Morrison, welcomed home by parade, returning to the arms of his family. A little good news on a dark day.
So Tom, you're in Enfield, Nova Scotia tonight where this rampage ended, also a place of tribute. What are you seeing there this evening?
It's true, this is the home detachment of Constable Heidi Stevenson. It's been impressive to watch the young children come all night with little flowers to drop them off here. There was a smudging ceremony by some members of the Mi'kmaq community as well. Just everyone trying to find some way to reach out and be helpful and be supportive. And to that end, there will be a virtual vigil held on Facebook on Friday night.
Tom, do you have any sense of how the funerals will proceed in a moment like this?
It's really tough. In the middle of a global pandemic, those restrictions of keeping people no closer than 6 feet from you remain in place. And we saw people today in Nova Scotia being very close together. The Premier reminding people that we have to stay apart but be together in whatever way we can, making it very difficult, of course, for people to plan funerals when they need family close as possible. Adrienne?
All right, Tom, thanks very much.
Okay.
Now, police have not released an official list of the dead, but in these tight-knit communities, names and faces and stories are emerging as people try to honor those whose lives were cut short. These among them. And for every person who died, our loved ones now left mourning. Joanna Remiliotis with how they're remembering today.
In an empty school, a haunting look into Lisa Macaulay's classroom. Her sweater is there. So are the signs of how much her students adored her.
Yeah, she's gone. Her personal effects are still here. So it just makes it more real and tragic.
The school says Macaulay was a devoted mother of two who shared that love with her students. One bright life among so many lost, leaving families and friends reeling and raging. On Facebook, Darcy Dobson says a monster murdered her mother, Heather O'Brien. A nurse, O'Brien, texted her family just moments before she was killed. Kristen Beaton, also in the care industry, braved the COVID health crisis only to be gunned down. A new wife and mother, Beaton's devastated husband built a makeshift memorial.
Big kitchen party.
So much joy snuffed out. During the pandemic, Emily Tuck offered solace with a song to cheer everyone in isolation.
She was so amazing.
Emily and her father, Aaron Tuck, and mother, Jolene Oliver, were all killed. Oliver's sister, Tammy, says she was a happy spirit.
My sister loved poetry. She loved books. She loved people. She loved waitressing. She was amazing. She was my best friend.
There are so many small, heartbreaking glimpses. A shattered uncle leaves flowers for his niece and her husband.
My niece Jamie Blair and her husband Greg and their little boys that they survived it. The little boys.
He can barely speak. So many are beyond words, too. Alana Jenkins and Sean McLeod were killed, their house set on fire. Both worked for Corrections Canada and were close with their neighbors Lisa Owen and Daryl Thurrier.
They were both the life of the party. They were so outgoing, exuberant, funny, just genuine people.
They knew another victim too, Tom Bagley, who lived nearby.
He was the kindest soul. Everybody on our road right now is grieving very, very hard.
She's left a hole.
And back in a school, missing a teacher. A note to someone who will never see it. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, compounding the tragedy, one of the victims lived to protect others from senseless violence. Veteran RCMP officer and mother of two, Heidi Stevenson. She was based at the Enfield Detachment, where Nova Scotians paid respects today.
You don't think in small communities it can happen, but it does. And as Enfield is a community, everybody pulls strong.
What they're doing is keeping our lives safe, and they're keeping all Nova Scotians safe.
People also honored Stevenson's life and service at the Dartmouth RCMP detachment. And of course, they were careful to maintain personal space in light of COVID-19.
Now, as for the gunman, you may have noticed we haven't yet named him or shown his picture. For the most part, we won't. Our focus remains on the lives lost and the families left behind. But in order to understand this tragedy, to learn its lessons, we will also need to explore the gunman's motivation, why and how this took place. Thomas Degla explains what we've learned so far.
It's hard to conceive how someone does something so heinous, but the search for clues continues at the suspect's Dartmouth denture clinic. Parked on the property, almost out of sight, a car similar to the one the gunman used to carry out his rampage, except that one had RCMP decals. The federal government sells used, unmarked police cruisers on its surplus website, though it seems the gunman's car wasn't one of those.
It wasn't actually an RCMP vehicle, but it was made to look identical to one, and we will trace back every part of that vehicle to find out how that happened.
Easier said than done. The fake police cruiser went up in flames at one of the many crime scenes. While Gabriel Wortman's client saw a mild-mannered persona at work, there were signs he was obsessed with police. His high school yearbook suggested his future may include being an RCMP officer. He carried out his murder spree wearing a Mountie uniform, though it's unknown whether it was real. Anyone can buy RCMP patches online. He had few known run-ins with the law, except in 2002 he pleaded guilty to assaulting a man in Dartmouth. Nothing preventing him, it seems, from buying guns.
It's not that difficult to get these weapons. It does require that someone apply for a license, but unless there is a very strong criminal record in the past.
This retired homicide investigator sees parallels with other killings, but still nothing hinting at a motive.
Usually with mass killers, they have some kind of a grievance with somebody or some authority that sets them off.
The gunman's fixation with police lasted until the end, when they shot him outside this truck stop. And with no note left behind, any explanation for what happened may be lost as well. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Police are facing a lot of challenges in this case. One of the biggest is the sheer size of the area they have to investigate. It's over 90 kilometers from where this all began in Portapique to Enfield, where it finally ended, with several affected communities in between, Wentworth and Shubenacadie, just to name a few. That is a wide swath of central Nova Scotia and a lot of ground to cover with limited resources. Katie Nicholson examines some of the other obstacles investigators will have to overcome.
Mass shootings are never easy to investigate, but the sheer scale of this one presents unique challenges. Retired police officer Frank Straub studies mass shootings in the U.S.
It is clear to me that he was planning this event for some period of time, that he believed that the uniform would give him either access to the original scene, that it would help him in his attempt to escape from the scene.
The U.S. has a lot more mass shootings than Canada. A recent study of 318 reveals a pattern. Most are limited to a small area and are over in half an hour. That's what makes this one stand out.
They're usually very quick, over in 5, 6, 7 minutes. They usually are not mobile.
Straub says the Nova Scotia rampage reminds him of the 2016 mass shooting in Kalamazoo, Michigan, when an Uber driver killed 6 victims on a spree around the city. Each crime scene needed to be sealed and guarded, a drain on police resources. In Nova Scotia, there are 16 crime scenes, 5 of them damaged by fire.
I've been to fire scenes where we thought we had 2 bodies in a vehicle. There's actually 3 bodies in there. And it's not until we have an anthropologist attend at the scene they can actually separate out the number of bones. Every one of these.
Veteran police detective Kevin Bryan says a larger question looms.
What would possess somebody to go out dressed as a police officer and start killing people?
The answers may lie in a deep dive of the shooter's computer and smartphone. Police hope it may reveal his motivation, or at least if there were any warning signs that could help prevent a similar tragedy. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Today, the Prime Minister expressed the country's grief and resolve to stand together.
This day is made all the more difficult because of the precious lives lost and the senseless act of one person. Just how could this happen? We may never know why. But we do know this. No one man's action can build a wall between us and a better day, no matter how evil, how thoughtless, or how destructive. Canadians are kind and generous. We are there for each other and we look out for one another. As families grieve the loss of a loved one, all Canadians are standing with them.
Later, the House of Commons observed a moment of silence. Justin Trudeau paid tribute to Constable Heidi Stevenson, that's the fallen RCMP officer, and said that today all Canadians are Nova Scotians. So joining me now, the Premier of Nova Scotia, Stephen McNeil. And Premier, first of all, our condolences to you and your province. How has your perspective evolved over the last 24, 48 hours as we continue to learn more about what unfolded?
Well, you know what, this has really been the last 24 hours is about the community and those families. I think many Nova Scotians who are numb coming into yesterday and waking up this morning to more news are beginning to realize the magnitude of what's happened and realizing our job is really to try to provide support to those families and to those communities.
And I know you've been asked this question before, but I'm still struggling to understand. I mean, that this happened over such a period of time. I mean, have you been able to learn more about why an emergency alert wasn't issued to quickly let people know that there was this active shooter situation in progress?
So we as a province, I've gone through our government actually to a number of ministers to find out if we were asked for that, and we weren't. We'll find out more details why the law enforcement agency in charge didn't ask. But to be honest with you, this was an active environment. Multiple fires, multiple deaths. People trying to pull this together, gunfire. I just think people need to allow this to unfold. My job really is to less focus on that. I'm going to let the RCMP do their job and municipal forces who've supported them. And I'm going to focus on families and how do we best heal our province.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't ask the question to be insensitive or to jump the gun in any way, but I guess it just strikes me that for a lot of people, part of regaining control and moving on is understanding why things unfolded.
First of all, I didn't take your question as being insensitive at all. I understand why people are asking that question. I just know that we need to be asked to do that. We were ready to do what we needed to do. But I think I think in the days and weeks ahead, it'll become clear why people made the decisions they made. I'm from a family of law enforcement, but I've never been in that situation, and particularly no one has in this country, to be honest with you. So it'll become clearer for all of us why decisions were made the way they were.
Premier, I wish you and your province all the best. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, and I want to say to people who across the country that are, no matter what happens, your words matter to those communities and those families. Keep passing on your thoughts and prayers to them, because it really is a real part of the healing process.
Thanks for your time, Premier.
More special coverage ahead, but next we turn to the fight against COVID-19. Promising news in one of the worst hit provinces, and why doctors at one hospital want you to see what's happening inside.
It's almost an insult to what we've been doing.
And we will take you back to Nova Scotia to hear from a province together in grief.
And a message of love and strength from above.
We felt the pain below us.
But as we go to break, we want to pause for a moment to bring you some of the stories of the lives lost. Welcome back. Nova Scotia's Chief Medical Officer of Health acknowledged today how much harder it is for people to grieve the victims of the mass shooting during a pandemic lockdown.
I know what I'm about to say is going to be hard for people to hear, especially when we're going through so much pain at this time. And while we want to mourn victims and come together as communities, we need to do that in a way that does not create an environment for COVID-19 to further spread.
Dr. Robert Strang then urged people not to gather as they normally would, asking them to pay tribute virtually for now. So Nova Scotia reported a few dozen new COVID-19 cases today. Across the country, there are more than 1,700 new cases, bringing the total number well past 36,000. More than 1,700 people have now died. Quebec is still the hardest hit province with more than 900 new cases today alone, and Ontario saw its largest single-day increase in cases. So how is it that Ontario officials are saying they can see the light at the end of the tunnel? Our health reporter Vic Adopia explains.
The outbreak has shown no mercy to the elderly. This is the 18th coronavirus-related death at this long-term care home. Facilities like these are being pushed to the front line of the pandemic as COVID-19 now takes two diverging paths in Ontario. One's getting worse, but for everyone else, it's at its peak.
Peaks are not a single day. Peaks are not sort of a nice single sort of spike. They can be a little bit bumpy. They can prolong for a period of time, particularly given public health interventions. But we're in that peak period right now.
Even though new daily cases of COVID-19 are climbing, that rate of growth has slowed in the wider community, suggesting Ontario's emergency isolation measures are working. At first, the province had projected 80,000 cases by the end of the outbreak. Today, it revised that down to just 20,000. It also initially estimated at least 900 ICU beds needed by the end of April. Now, it's less than 400. That demand for critical care has shifted to long-term care homes, where the province only days ago introduced new measures, including restrictions on employees working in multiple homes.
Hindsight's 2020. But I think we're paying for what was in long-term care really a flat-footed response.
With the uncertainty surrounding long-term care homes, the Premier says it's too soon to even talk about getting back to normal.
Hang in there, continue social distancing, continue practicing the protocols from the Chief Medical Officer. We'll get there. And I know some people are getting, as I said before, cabin fever, and they're getting a little antsy. But we can't jump ahead.
So far, Ontario is being spared the exponential explosion of cases seen in New York and Italy. But officials here still worry about how quickly things could change, especially for the most vulnerable. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
The Markham-Stouffville Hospital in the Toronto area was hit early and hard by COVID-19. Tonight, medical staff take us inside the ICU, sharing a stark picture of what's happening as a warning to Canadians that the virus is still deadly serious. Wendy Mesley has that story.
On his morning rounds, medical chief Dr. Anand Dubey gets yet another piece of bad news. One of his COVID patients is failing fast. Dr. Dubey psychs himself up to call the patient's wife, saying a ventilator could be the only way to keep her husband alive. It's a hard call.
He's really working a lot harder to breathe, and the oxygen levels are a bit lower. He seems to think that he's going to pass away no matter what we do, and I don't actually think that's true.
The staff suits up for an intubation process like they're going to war, and they never know if they will win or lose.
We tell them, we're going to do the procedure in a few minutes. If you have anything to say to your family, then you should say it now, and we're there to listen to that, and it's heartbreaking. It really is, because these are people with families and a life.
When are you coming home? And of course, they have their own families to worry about.
I'm losing most of my hair because I'm showering so much. Love you guys. Bye.
But no matter how deadly the virus, the doctors worry that some Canadians aren't treating the threat seriously enough.
It's almost an insult to what we've been doing, because we are working so hard to get these people back to their families.
And now there's a new surge as patients pour into their ICU from COVID outbreaks in nearby long-term care homes, group homes, and shelters. But then,
I'll see you soon, okay?
After 17 days, a COVID patient they've come to know is taken off his ventilator. He's leaving ICU, and the staff remembers why they keep putting themselves at risk.
Oh, was that for you or for me? That was for you, sir.
Wendy Mesley, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, Alberta saw another jump in the number of COVID cases, with more than 100 being reported today. 4 new deaths were also attributed to the virus, including one linked to a meat packing plant south of Calgary. The Cargill plant in High River is shutting down as it deals with the largest COVID-19 outbreak in the province. Nearly 500 cases have now been linked to the facility.
Many of the new cases that are currently being diagnosed were exposed up to 2 weeks ago, so we will continue to see new cases linked to this outbreak over the coming days.
All Cargill employees are now being encouraged to get tested. It's not clear how long the shutdown will last.
The implications, obviously, for this industry are very serious, could not be more serious.
Jason Kenney is calling on Ottawa to do more for the country's beleaguered energy sector as oil prices took a historic plunge today. Western Canadian Select was trading below zero for the first time ever, while West Texas Intermediate, a North American benchmark, closed around minus $38 a barrel. That means they're effectively paying people to buy their oil because they can't store it all and global demand is low.
Next on The National, we return to Nova Scotia and the community at the heart of this tragedy. But as we go to break, a moment to remember more of the lives lost. Purple and pink painted across the sky in Nova Scotia. Online, people posting this picture as sunset to end a very difficult day. The sky lit up like a candle in remembrance. Making sense of a mass shooting is never easy, even more difficult when the picture remains incomplete. Police are hard at work sifting through evidence from 16 different crime scenes. So there are gaps in the timeline we're about to show you, and terrible details to come. But here's what we know about how this evil unfolded. Saturday night, Nova Scotians were exactly where they were supposed to be safest right now, staying at home. A shift at the RCMP was ending around 9 p.m. with the most benign of tweets. We get to relax for the evening and sleep in. That's how it should have been. 10:32 p.m., the first public notice of trouble, another RCMP tweet about a firearms complaint in this tiny neighborhood of tiny Portapique. Population at this time of year between 100 and 150. The gunman owned 2 properties there. The warning for people was to stay inside and lock their doors. No emergency alert issued. How many missed that tweet? We're already asleep. Here's some of the audio from the police scanner just after 11 p.m.
So there's a structure fire. There's a person down there with a gun. They're still looking for him. It's very vague what's going on down there.
Witnesses reported at least 3 structure fires in Portapique. We know the Tucks were killed here together. Emily, Aaron, and Jolene Oliver. So were Greg and Jamie Blair.
They're bringing the victims out to that intersection from the actual scene.
Were there more? Yes, but it's still early for details. What weapons were used? Even now, police aren't sure.
We've been unable to fully examine the crime scenes because, for instance, we have had 5 structure fires, most of those being residences, and we believe there may be victims still within the remains of those homes.
There is still a lot of work to be done in regards to the various firearms that have been used.
When police arrived, the gunman was gone, but there were accounts he'd been dressed as an RCMP officer, was driving this car with replica markings. By 8 a.m. Sunday morning, terrifying calls from another community, Wentworth, 42 kilometers to the northeast. More gunfire, more explosions. Tom Bagley, a volunteer firefighter, had rushed to help and was killed. Sean McLeod, Alana Jenkins, both corrections workers, their home was set on fire. They both died here. All told, police say there were 5 fires in these assaults. Why is a question they are a long way from answering. And there are details of what happened on the road overnight and into the morning that are still being put together. Cars stopped and set alight. Some killed just on their way to work, including Kristen Beaton. This gunman moved a lot. By 10 a.m., police tweeted he'd been spotted in the hidden hilltop campground in Glenholm. Then the scene of 2 more homicides. By By 11 a.m., he'd changed vehicles, was now in a silver SUV. Was he taking his murderous rage to Halifax? 11:40 a.m., after all night on the road, exhausted and traumatized police caught up with him at this gas station in Enfield. His rampage over, not his horror. Finding, naming the dead is still not done. And mourning them? How cruel that just when embraces are needed the most, they cannot be offered. Love, though, the entire country has that for Nova Scotia. Earlier this evening, I spoke with Christine Blair. She's the mayor of Colchester County. That's where Portapique is located. She took a moment from her very difficult, very busy day to talk with us from her home in Truro. All right, Madam Mayor, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, how are you? How are the people in your community managing tonight?
I believe that the people in the community are still reeling from this horrendous event. It's something that you don't come to terms with very easily, and this is only day 2. And the RCMP are still doing a lot of investigations, so we don't know what the unknown factor is here. We know that we have a lot of names of deceased that have been released, and we know that since the first announcement was made, the number has climbed. So there are a lot of families that are suffering. There are a lot of families that are in pain. They've lost their loved ones, and we're doing the absolute best we can to support them and be there for them in their need.
It's so hard, and I can't imagine there's been much sleep really for anyone there, and you're in and out of meetings, and I'm curious, what are the answers you and the people around you need to hear right now?
I think that the community needs to know that there is a lot of love and support out there for them. It's certainly a very difficult time to give definitive answers when you know that there are still investigations going on. The one thing that is definitive in the lives of the people who are suffering is the fact that they have lost loved ones in their families. And we have offered condolences to all. They know that the municipality of the County of Colchester is there to support them. And I think that that is crucial, to know that there is support. We have made a lot of information available with regards to counseling services, grief counseling services, and that's something that will be necessary, I suspect, for a lot of people.
I was just going to say, I suspect your impulse listening to you talk as a leader must be to want to wrap your arms around people now, but nobody can do that. Do you have any sense of how people are going to be able to mourn in the days to come?
It's going to be difficult, not being able to have that support of family, friends, neighbors, people who are concerned, who love you, who want to be there to wrap their arms around you and to help you through this difficult time, is putting an extra layer of hurt on the whole situation.
Madam Mayor, there are 37 million Canadian hearts breaking for you tonight, and we're all thinking of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, for those nice, comforting words. Appreciate it.
It is an exceptionally hard question. How do you properly grieve when you're physically apart? Well, next, some expert advice on how to navigate incredibly challenging times. First, though, more of the stories of the lives lost this weekend. Here's one way people are offering condolences while keeping a safe distance from COVID-19. These Hearts for Heidi are a tribute to Constable Heidi Stevenson, who died in the line of duty responding to Nova Scotia's mass shooter. They drive home a sad truth about mourning under a lockdown.
The COVID-19 is not going to pause because of our pain. We cannot let our guard down and create even more challenges by having COVID-19 spread further.
So listen, the emotional toll of the pandemic was already heavy. And now in the wake of this rampage, many will grieve in isolation. You can't even reach out and hug someone. So let's talk about navigating that. Michael Unger is a family therapist in Halifax, also the Canada Research Chair in Community Resilience. And we have Dr. Juveria Zahir, a psychiatrist here in Toronto. Hello to the two of you. And Michael, maybe I'll start with you if I could. I mean, you're a Nova Scotian. How do you even begin to make sense of the senseless?
I don't think anybody really has even begun to do that. The very strange thing about this is that we as Maritimers, I like to sort of, at better times, I would say that we're casserole people. We're the kinds of folks, bring food to each other when there's a crisis. And this compounding effect of not just the pandemic, but now a tragedy like Canada has never seen before, it really challenges us. You could feel it. Everyone is talking. People are just really challenging their identity of who we are out here on the East Coast.
And Juveria, I mean, how do people even grieve? I mean, when you can't reach out and touch someone.
I think that's one of the tragedies of the pandemic that maybe we didn't account for, that our traditions and our ways of connecting are sort of thrown into chaos. I think if we can connect with the emotion behind the grief, the bringing of the casserole is bringing comfort to people who are suffering. The hug with your neighbor is showing people how much we care. To find ways to show how we care, to be creative about it, I think that's where we can make the biggest difference.
Right. And so, Michael, maybe you can, help arm us, because a lot of folks out there will be feeling beaten up by COVID-19. I mean, just in terms of finances, in terms of health, in terms of family, and now this. So what are the tools or the techniques that might be helpful?
When we look at, there's unprecedented. Very few people have ever had to confront something like this, where you get this double jeopardy of these two major risks. But we do know from other, whether it's pandemics or wildfires, that people do much better when they have opportunities to maintain their structure. When the message to our families and to ourselves is that, yes, we're safe. It's interesting. Normally you go reclaim public spaces, right? That's what you would do in time. You would have memorials, you'd gather together, and of course we can't do that. So what I see people doing, and I think we should be doing, is creating, whether it's an online forum, which Colchester County is going to be doing, anything that we can do to reestablish our collective goodwill, to draw some sort of meaning out of this, to draw some sort of sense that we are still who we are. And indeed, if we can get ourselves back to some structure and some routines and people just feeling safe enough to go out and indeed, with the police as well, to assert that we do trust them despite the way these tragic events unfolded.
Right. And Dr. Zahir, maybe I'll give you the last word. What is it that you would expect or hope to see from community leaders in Portapique or more broadly in Nova Scotia in terms of reaching out and helping people in these trying times?
I think we need leaders who will share their own struggles and their own feelings of distress. We need to be able to connect with each other, because I think when we're so physically isolated, that social connection is the most important thing.
All right. Michael Unger, Juveria Zahir, thank you so much for both of your time. I really appreciate it. And I know our viewers do as well. And for folks at home, if you or someone you know in Nova Scotia needs to talk to someone, the mental health crisis line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number to call toll-free, 1-888-429-8167.
Next on The National, you'll hear from Nova Scotians united in grief and in strength. First, though, how one man chose to reach out to the communities affected in his own way with a message in the sky.
I knew there was nobody around to see me. It was something I needed to do for myself. It was a beautiful flight. On my right seat, I had my partner, Lara. She and I were very quiet. We felt the pain below us, the pain of the people and everything they went through. The only distraction was changing course every 10 seconds to make the heart shape that I really wanted to do that. And when I landed at the airport, the air traffic controller said to me,
"That was a lovely flight pattern."
"Thank you so much."
Yeah, I did.
Right there and then I realized that I wasn't alone on this flight. I had taken with me thousands and thousands of people.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, a detailed look at the devastating rampage in Nova Scotia and the victims now being mourned. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
God love them, courage and strength to their families, and all the best.
A little love from a Nova Scotian living in Alberta. Corinne Kalakalo built this memorial in her front yard. She's one of many Canadians in mourning tonight. Flags across the country are flying at half-mast, and the CN Tower lit up blue and white for Nova Scotia, then red, blue, and gold for the RCMP. In Nova Scotia, though, the grief is raw and only just beginning. Here are some of the voices we heard from across that province today.
The Portapique area is a beautiful area, Nova Scotia. Lovely people there, and it's just an absolute tragedy and shock. So many lives have been taken.
I brought the flowers here for my niece Jamie Blair and her husband Greg. It's just sad.
Small thank yous mean a lot to a lot of people. You don't have to be rich to be kind.
When stuff like this happens, we got to rally together as people, loved ones in the community, and just show everybody that, you know, bad things happen, but we're still good people out there, right?
It was very hard.
Especially when it's somebody you know.
It's your friend, you know. It's hard.
Clearly, the grief tonight weighs heavily across Nova Scotia and our country, but Nova Scotians are still finding ways to support each other.
Tonight I'll sing for Nova Scotia. Tonight I'll sing songs of love.
Some of the ways they've found to stand together. Next.
Church bells in Banff, Alberta today rang out to the tune of Farewell, Nova Scotia. It is one of the many tributes to the lives lost in this senseless act. Tributes forced to take place in part because of the global pandemic.
And tonight across Nova Scotia, a simple gesture, a candle on a front porch or window to honor the victims, a moment to pause and remember. So that's how we wanted to end our program.
Here's Canadian musician Scott Nolan's tribute to Nova Scotia and a look at how a province is still standing strong together. That is a national for April 20th. Good night.
Good night.
Tonight I'll sing for Nova Scotia. Tonight I'll sing songs of love. A gentle tune for friends and neighbors. Peace just can't come soon enough. A soft refrain to bring some comfort to every single living thing. Tonight I'll sing for Nova Scotia. Let the bells of St. James ring. To Today I'll grieve for sons and daughters who never got to say goodbye, for how the sky can look so different every time we go outside. From Porter Peak to Shubenacadie, no one here will forget today. The neighbor said he couldn't believe it, God, what happened anyway? I thought I heard distant sirens, I see fire down the road. We can still hear the gunshots at night, it's hard to be alone. So tonight I'll sing